What's going on, y'all? Welcome to another episode of the Speak Up Sports Podcast with Cass, Chris, and Shad. What's going on, fellas?
Good, y'all.
What's going on? It's another day. We are officially into training camp in the training camp part of the NFL offseason. Just about every team has reported at this point, and all teams will be practicing by the end of the week. We obviously will have the very first NFL game, week from tomorrow as well, the Hall of Fame game. So we are getting closer and closer. Obviously, some clips have started to drop as well. Something that we've talked about over the past, kind of few weeks, and probably really over the past year. When you start to get into that season, when it starts getting closer and closer to the fall. But before we get into the NFL side of things, obviously we've had a couple major moves that have happened in the NBA over the past week since we were last together. One that we hinted at a little bit, last week when talking about Bradley Beal, but Chris Paul, for his final season in the NBA, will officially be rejoining the Los Angeles Clippers, joining James Harden, Bradley Beal, and Kawhi. What did you guys think about the deal? Obviously, we've been talking about it, and something that has been kind of speculated over the past, month, really. But now that it's official, what do you guys think about Chris Paul going back to LA?
Man, this is really the ultimate we gonna see. Cause I mean, it just seemed like it's one of the things where we collecting a lot of names, and obviously these at various time of their career, these names were like very prominent players. But as far as him going back to the Clippers, I mean, is he going to be the de facto point guard? I guess that would be the question. James Harden. I mean, they have played together, but I mean, at this point in James Harden's career, he really is like the point guard. He is the de facto person bringing up the ball, initiating the offense, and obviously Chris Paul can still defend and whatnot. But I feel like it's one of those situations where somebody you got too many people who need their hands on the basketball. Like, you got too many people on that team that needs that to get themselves going. So I'm not sure how that's gonna work. So only time will tell. Like I said, it's one of them ultimate we gonna see type of ordeals.
Yeah, and with with Chris Paul joining, and it's just weird because obviously I felt that the Bradley Beal move itself was weird, and that was something that it didn't, to me, make a whole lot of sense for Bradley Beal to go there, given that James Harden was there, given that Kawhi was there, and also given his history with Booker and KD with the Suns, and how that didn't necessarily work out. I thought that he would probably go to a spot where there's a clear cut role, and maybe there is a clear cut role, but same thing here with Chris Paul, especially given some of the rumors and reports that have happened, saying that Chris Paul wanted to be a starter. Obviously, some of this stuff might not be 100% true for his last season, but like you said, like now with Bradley Beal being there, are you going to be a starter? Are you going to be
Right.
coming off the bench like you have been for the past couple seasons? The team is just, I mean, oldest team in the league at this point.
Fact.
So I mean, it's an interesting fit. It's obviously something that the Clippers have been continuously trying to do under the Kawhi era. Obviously, it was Kawhi and PG, and Rust and James Harden, and obviously with PG leaving, it was Norman Powell and James Harden, and obviously some of the guys that they brought in. But it's just going to be interesting. Chris Paul, I do think, similar with James Harden, where him and James Harden will be able to play really well with Zubac and John Collins. I think that they will benefit, obviously, a lot from it. But just in totality, like, you got three guards in Bradley Beal, Chris Paul, obviously Chris Dunn. Well, four guards, Chris Dunn, and James Harden. Three of these guys are older maybe a little bit brittle. I just don't know. It's just a lot of like. I mean, the Clippers just do a good job of collecting talent, but it's just like you just got a lot of talent just to have talent more so than it being like a true team fit. So I don't know.
Right.
We'll see. But how do you feel about it, Cass?
I'm with you both on that. It's the ultimate we'll see. Like Chris said, it's you see those reports saying that Chris Paul, there'll be games where that he won't play and stuff like that. First off, it's way too early to say anything like that. Second off, though, if that is the case, what does your playoff lineup really amount to? Like, what did you bring him in for? And if it's just Chris Paul just wanting to be back in LA, it is what it is. You want to just go back there for a year, retire, and cool. If you don't have any expectations of playing too much. But when you bring in a guy that literally played every single game last season, if I'm correct, for the first time in a long time. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how the fit is. Of course, I don't like the James Harden stuff didn't necessarily end on the best terms. So maybe enough time has passed and everything. But I don't really like the basketball fit there personally. I just think there are other places he could have went that would have been much better for him. But if you want to be in LA, you want to be in LA. It is what it is. That's kind of the same thing we like with Dame. You just want to go back to Portland, go back to Portland.
And at least with Dame, like it kind of made a little bit more sense because they don't necessarily have like they're still trying to work on their direction. And I mean, I guess you could kind of say the same thing about the Clippers. I don't know, man. It's just, I don't know. At least Dame is hurt. And there's a clear, like, all right, I'm going to help this team that I'm the best player in the history of this franchise. I'm going to help this team, this year and then maybe next year. Because we don't know if Dame will ever actually truly suit up for the Portland Trailblazers. Obviously they signed there, not to say that he's just going, it was just a show. But if the team is the young guys are good this year, we can very well, see Dame maybe getting traded to a team that, when he's healthy, like, hey, we paid you, we gave you an opportunity, because of what you've done for us, we gave you a contract for multiple years, even though you were hurt. Now, next year, you're on a tradable contract. You can go to a team where you're actually, can have an opportunity to win a championship, but you're still going to be able to get paid, which may not have been the case had he gone to Celtics, which is someplace that was rumored, or elsewhere. I don't know. For Chris Paul's last season, I get it. He is the best player for the Clippers. I don't know. I don't know. I just have to see it, I guess. I just have to see it. It's with all those guys there, it's just hard to, and given the history, it's just hard to see that it works out. But I'm also like, Chris Paul makes every team that he's been on better for the most part, aside from the last two, obviously, with the Warriors and the Spurs. And the Spurs was more of a thing where the team just cratered at the end.
Right.
So it's tough.
It is tough. I like that. Tough. I like that point about Dame though. Before we move on, because like if the Celtics talks were legit, it would make sense for them to just revisit that shit next offseason when both JT and him are good. So
they've obviously got a relationship. They keep
yeah. So once they're both healed up for next season, I don't know. It might happen, Chris. It might happen, Ham. It might happen.
We'll see.
And it's a way to help out Dame. Like, look, like we know these teams might be either looking at you as damaged goods, where we're not trying to sign you, to a multi-year, or they're going to be trying to be like, oh well, look, we signed you to a minimum contract even though you were hurt. Like next year, you could still show us some love or whatever. I don't know. I'm not fully convinced that we see Dame play for the Trailblazers. And if we do, I'm not fully convinced that it's for like an entire season. Maybe it's for a couple games and trade anyway. But speaking of, guys that aren't places very long, Marcus Smart has officially become an LA Laker. Kind of a trade, or not a trade, but he was bought out by the Washington Wizards. Something that was kind of speculated that he could be bought out, but Lakers obviously talking to him without everybody really knowing, the behind the scenes, but securing him signing before they officially bought him out. How did you guys feel about that move? Seeing that he's a longtime Celtic, ultimately ended up with the Lakers.
Boo! I mean, I honestly would have loved him back at with us, especially this year. Seeing how we offloaded a lot of contracts. JT hurt, but for the Lakers, I guess it's a good move. He's going to bring that tenacity on defense, and I'm not saying that they lack it, but that is one of the areas that everybody was basically talking about once AD left. Obviously, he's not a center, but once AD left, everybody would assume that the Lakers would just go down spiral as far as defensively. And so, if that was their concern, their big concern, he's going to definitely bring that when he get there. Offensively, he doesn't have to have the ball in his hand, although he's not a necessary off-ball player, but he doesn't necessarily have to have the ball in his hand to be productive. He's going to give you the hustle plays. He's going to make every play he can, even without the ball. So that'll be a good thing for the Lakers, especially with obviously Bron getting up there in age. He can't do all that extra shit that he used to do. You could bring in a guy like Marcus Smart to do all the dirty work for you. So it's a decent move for them.
It's not completely surprising if you look back at all the Celtics guards that have gone on to play for the Lakers in their career.
That's
Rondo,
also true.
Isaiah Thomas, Avery Bradley. So that's pretty much the progression. He's just the latest in line for that. But I think it's a good pickup. I think it could end up, as long as he's not doing too much. That's always been the thing with Marcus Smart for me personally. Like he likes to impact the game. I get it. But there are certain times where he's doing too much, especially offensively. You're taking too many shots. You're not passing the ball enough. But I think the fit could work besides Luka, as long as he's not playing too many minutes. It's the kind of guard I feel like they need it. And then especially when you can't trust the health or just overall play of the defensive players that you do have in Vanderbilt, and then you lost DFS. So I think it could work just as long as it's not too many minutes. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I think the Lakers have done for all the things that people have said about them, they have done a pretty decent job of making moves around the margin. I think it's clear that they were trying to get some type of youth, as well as defensive ability, as well as just some better bodies, like instead of some of the guys that they've had, obviously, that have been hurt a lot over the past couple seasons. With that being said, Marcus Smart has also been hurt a lot over the past couple seasons. So it'll be interesting to see what what ends up being the lineup, if he's a starter, if he does end up going to the bench, how that works out. But I do think, being able to pick up a player, that was once a defensive player of the year, a couple of years ago, I don't think that you can, obviously getting him for cheap as well. I don't think that there's something that you could just be like, that's just terrible. But we have to see, obviously, if he's able to stay healthy. But the thing, there has been a lot of, I feel like a lot of the national media talking about it has kind of been very down on some of the things that Marcus Smart is able to do there. Some people have been calling him old, which, he is, obviously in his 30s, getting up there in age. But one of the things is, like, some people have been like, he's not the same defensively. And in my opinion, part of the reason he's been so good defensively is, number one, he's obviously strong. He's physical, but he's smart. So that's always something similar to Draymond. That's just that. It doesn't matter how old you are. Like, you'll always be a smart defender. And I think that I think he's always going to be a plus defender just because of that. He's always going to be strong. He's always going to be smart. And that's a lot of times how he makes his plays. So I do think that part of it is a little bit overstated in terms of, like, he's up there in age. I don't think he can do it anymore. Like, how many defenders do we know that, get older and just start getting cooked through?
It's just because, like, I think that's mainly because of just where he's been the past couple seasons. Like, you went to Memphis, that shit didn't work out not because of him, but partly because of him and his injuries, but mainly because of Ja and his injuries and his situation. You go to the Wizards, It's the Wizards. So I mean, it's only so much.
They were obviously just trying to get off the money,
Yeah.
Anybody
So only
go
so
there,
much
go
you
there
can
to
do.
die, bro.
I mean, you know what I'm saying. So I think he still has. I think he does still have a lot to take. I just don't think he should be playing too many minutes because of that injury risk that he has. But yeah, I think he still has his defensive chops for sure.
Yeah, and it's going to be, they still got a couple moves to be made, but mentioning him, Jake LaRavia, as well as somebody. I don't know if you guys have seen some of the stuff that Marcus Smart said about him. Obviously, they played together, but he thought that he's also somebody that could be a really good defender. So that's clear that that's something that the Lakers were targeting, knowing, obviously LeBron's getting up there in age and he was probably their best defender last year, which is, not to say that it's like a slight on Bron because he was actually playing really good defense, but like he is 40 years old and, you want, you want him to last throughout the entirety of the season, and be able to give you it on both offense and defense. So you don't want to necessarily be the guy that's, picking up the best player at all times and stuff like that. So I think it was a good move. We'll see, ultimately, what other moves they are able to make. But I also think that, given now that I've kind of seen how it played out with the moves that they made, I really think that man Rob thought he was going to be able to sign Dorian Finney-Smith. Like he was really talking crazy because I got Marcus Smart coming. I can sign this man for the low too. And try to finesse it. That's why I really he fucked it all up. So based on some of the rumors that he was out here bad talking Dorian
Talking that shit got out. He thought he was being slick with it.
I think he thought he would be a slick. He like, I might be able to get him on the low. Yeah. Get him all. So I don't know. But good on him, given some of the scrutiny that he's had. He has been working around the market. So
yeah,
we'll see if they've got any other moves in the tuck, unlike their counterparts in the Golden State area. But as we're talking about deals, switching gears to the NFL, one deal that we have been talking about for quite a long time at this point, has finally happened with TJ Watt officially signing his extension with the Pittsburgh Steelers, completing their offseason of obviously getting in the veterans that they have got in with DK, Jalen, and Aaron Rodgers, Darius Slay as well. And then being able to do all that while also not going into training camp with this lingering question mark like some other teams. How did you guys feel about that move, given the time that it's taken and, some of the things that we've said over the past, few weeks about it?
I mean, for me, it's about damn time. I mean, I know we have talked about, them, like you just said, Shad signing, getting Ramsey signing Slay, and building up their defense. And I mean, I think a part of that, us believing that they have good defense, is still having TJ Watt up front. And so without him, that defense, I would have had some question mark. They would have been okay on the back end, but I mean, you're gonna need that pass rush ultimately. But I mean, good for them to be able to sign TJ. It's gonna make an interesting year for them for Steelers fans all the way around, because you got to go for it. I mean, if you don't, I don't know. Like, I just feel like if you don't even make it deep in the playoffs, like a lot of these players that we're talking about possibly could be their last year in general. In the NFL, we talking about from Slay. This could be his last year, possibly Aaron Rodgers. I mean, I don't know. And if you're talking about those kind of people, the ones you just signed and you didn't make no real, run at the Super Bowl, then this kind of was for nothing, in my opinion. But we'll see. Happy for DJ though.
He got his back. The years were clearly the hold up, especially with his age. But I'm glad they got it done. Especially when you see situations like Trey Henderson and what that has amounted to. They definitely need that kind of distraction going into training camp. I mean, it's like you said, Chris. It's put up or shut up. We gotta do so. We got like it's not enough to make it to the playoffs. You got to produce. TJ has to produce in the playoffs as well, which that has been a talking point, the last couple of years as well. So we'll kind of see how it all works out. But yeah, shout out to TJ for getting his money. It's crazy. I think they had the statistic that his contract is worth more than JJ has made in his whole career, or his career earnings, something like that. Which is wild how this money is just skyrocketing, and it's keep going up every season. It's so wild. But shout out to them though.
Yeah, and I think, this was one that probably didn't get as much, national coverage over the past, few months, given, obviously he made his little Instagram post a few months back where, he acted, people speculated that it was about the contract situation. You know, there was obviously some speculation around how he and some of the veteran defensive players felt about Aaron Rodgers coming in as well. But, given the Steelers and kind of who they've been, I don't think it's a surprise that they were able to get this done and got it done right before training camp started as well. Going into the season, given some of the things that people say about Aaron Rodgers, I feel like this, and really DK Metcalf, I guess, Jalen Ramsey, all of them, this offseason, I feel like has still kind of been relatively quiet for the Steelers in terms of like they're just kind of handling business. Like, everybody's talking about them and to an extent, we're talking about the TJ Watt deal. They're going to be able to get it done. They get it done without any issues. Aaron Rodgers, that was something that was speculated on for so long. And obviously, the whole time, the Pittsburgh Steelers knew what the plan was, knew how it was going to go, knew he was going to be there. They didn't, they weren't out here like, at least it didn't seem they were sitting out here putting out, oh, Aaron Rodgers needs to sign, or we're going to go elsewhere, and all this extra stuff. They just got it done. So, unlike, like Cass mentioned, the Trey Hendrickson situation, obviously, the situation that goes on with the Cowboys, that I don't even know if we should call it a situation because, it seems like they're doing it every year. They just kind of like that shit. Even Jerry Jones just likes the attention more than, he's really like, I don't want to pay. I honestly think that Jerry Jones really wants to. He likes paying these dudes top dollar because he likes the ego to be able to be like, oh, yeah, I can pay them the top deal. He just likes to do all this extra shit. I really feel like he be talking to him on the side like, yeah, just go along with it. We're going to be in the headlines for a couple weeks. Like,
that card to the headline
I'm going to say something crazy. Yeah, I'm going to say something crazy like,
don't be alarmed. I don't mean no harm.
It is what it is. But good on TJ Watt, the Steelers getting it done, going into the season. For a guy that as legendary as he has been, to not have a playoff win with the Steelers, I know that's going to be something big for them this year. So I'm interested. I'm excited to see how everything plays out for them. And like you said, Chris, it is going to be. Aaron Rodgers said that it's going to be his last year. We'll see about that.
We'll see.
But it'll be nice to see how they all mesh together and go out with Mike T as well. Because it could be it could be what I thought it was going to be last year with Russ. But but sticking on the pass rusher talk, obviously Von Miller also has come off the board. And has officially signed with the Washington Commanders, adding to their offseason of, adding veterans, especially over the past two seasons. Something that's kind of gone a little bit under the radar, but how did you guys feel about that move right before training camp as well?
It doesn't shock me. It's going along with the Dan Quinn theme of at least last year and of course continuing this year's. He likes to sign his veterans. I understand it. He has a young offense, and I feel like him signing the veterans, as far as especially on the defensive side of the ball, that allows him to get people that can understand what defense he's running, and he know that they will be where they need to be. They're not about to do no freelancing or none of that. So, good for Vaughn to get another paycheck. Will it work out? I don't know. Vaughn's he's been good, but he did had that injury a year or two ago, and we'll see how it works out for them. But good on him. I'm not really shocked about the situation.
Can't be shocked when that's the oldest team in the league, or one of the oldest teams in the league, adding another veteran player. Like we said, I think we talked about earlier in the offseason around free agency. I'm interested to see their plan going forward. It seems like they're kind of, in a way pushing chips in, getting all these veteran players. But I also want to see some succession plan behind them, because if it doesn't happen, then what? Then you got another year of Debo. You got another. A lot of these veterans are just not going to play next year. Going to get cheaper deals or whatever. So it's interesting to see how it all shakes out. But I'm not surprised at all that they signed him. Like you said, DQ likes to have his veterans. He likes to know what he's getting in a way. And we'll see if it works out for them. I don't think it will. Spoiler to our preview, I don't think it will. But it's worth a shot. It's worth a shot.
Yeah, I thought it was a bit interesting to go to the Commanders, but I mean, they are kind of the hot button team, kind of like the Texans were a year ago, Bears were a year ago. But it is very interesting for them because a lot of some of the teams that I've talked about in the past, given that Jaden Daniels is on a rookie contract, I know that they've added some veterans in Debo. Obviously, we really can. We really can't say it like that. But in my opinion, I feel like Marshawn is also another addition this year. Because last year, he was nicked, came in midseason. I feel like this year, having the full off season, full time with the team, to me, that's a little bit of an addition for them. But they don't have a lot of. Chris you said that their offense is young. They really don't have a lot of young talent just in general.
No, that's true.
Jaden Daniels, obviously, but Terry McLaurin was already an older prospect when he came out. He's obviously looking for his second contract, but he's 30 already. Their running backs, Zach Ertz, obviously
his asshole.
they got Sanat last year, and we'll see how he turns out for them at tight end. But Debo is, getting up there in age. Obviously, they have Luke McCaffrey.
He didn't play much last season.
Brown, somebody that got hurt as well.
Brian Robinson Jr.
Brian Robinson Jr. is not necessarily a true a star at the running back position. He's a really solid player. But you have Austin Eckler, who's older as well, and obviously they their cornerback room actually is something that you could probably look at and be like, okay, it's something pretty solid, because they do have Marshawn, they do have Sanders Strill, that they brought in, Trey Amos as well, that they drafted,
St. Juice,
so we'll see, but I just feel like for a team that, when you do see a quarterback that comes out the way that Jaden Daniels did and has the season that they did, I would much rather try to build with young talent as opposed to some of the aging talent that they've got. But, maybe they're feeling like, we get it done with this talent right now. A couple years, we're going to be having, maybe some of the younger guys, when Jaden Daniels is starting to hit that contract, we have the younger guys now that we're putting onto the team, so we have those cheaper contracts. Maybe that's the plan for them. But
like a reverse thing, when you have young quarterback built around him, but when you got a veteran quarterback got the money, you get the younger talent drafted.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll
maybe
see.
That's the plan.
But it is a weird situation for them, because like you said, you made it all the way to the NFC Championship with that quarterback. You supposed to go out there and start spending money. You go out there and start spending, at least they did go and get Debo, so they obviously believe,
they got Debo. They brought in Debo. They got obviously Vaughn. They brought in the tackle from Houston as well.
Laramie
Tunsil.
Yeah.
But you when you make it that far with a quarterback, a young quarterback, you typically do start making those moves. But it's also typically because not only is it young quarterback, but you might also have young players that have ascended, and I don't feel like they've necessarily got that. Terry McLaurin had a really great season. Mikey Sanders was really good last year as a rookie. who else?
Who
I
else?
can't think of anybody else that just
Because you
like kind
got
of as a young player, not saying that they didn't have anybody else that
yeah.
was good on the team, but as a young player that like stepped up, and Diami Brown, he was a young player, but he went to Jacksonville, so it's like I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, what is your linebacker room
I
going to
don't
look like after Bobby goes? Frankie Louvu is getting older and older. I mean, he's not as old as everybody else, obviously. But what is it going to look like? I really
maybe
interested to
he's
see.
the guy that you say that he's the one that took a step because he obviously did take a step last year, but it's just a little bit of a weird roster construction for me.
Yeah.
And even especially given how they won the games last year, I mean, we'll see. It's an interesting roster construction. We'll see how it ends up working out for them. But good for Von Miller. I just thought that he would have went to a team, maybe like returning to the Bills on a cheaper deal, or like the Chiefs or something like that. That appeared to be just a little bit closer. But how can I say anybody's closer than the team that was in the Final Four?
That's true.
So. But before we get into our top tens, major news in the NFL as well. Tyrann Mathieu, the Honey Badger, has officially announced his retirement and retiring from the NFL and the New Orleans Saints. The Saints quickly replaced him with Julian Blackmon. But big offseason for retirements for the Saints. Obviously, with Derek Carr retiring earlier in the season, and then Tyrann Mathieu obviously now retiring at home. How did you guys feel about that news? Felt like it was a bit of a surprise, but what were you guys' thoughts?
I mean, I could say the same. Man, it was surprise. I mean, yeah, he was about 32, 33, but I mean, he still has something left in the tank. A bit of shocker, but I mean, he had a hell of a career in my opinion, especially coming from LSU, having the troubles he had at LSU, and then being able to get drafted. And, he played his ass off in NFL. So I mean, shout out to him being able to walk away from the game when you want to. I mean, that's all you can really ask for, not being forced out the game. But it was a shock. I didn't that wasn't on my bingo card. I tell you that.
Yeah, these retirements that happen like the days before camp. I mean, it is a shock, but it always makes sense. Like when you get up there, it's like I ain't trying to do this shit again. And we see that from a lot of players, when they get down to it. Shout out to Honey Badger, man. Like you said, Chris, there was a lot of unknown when he came into the league. People didn't know what they were getting. He had a lot of trouble. This is why he failed so much. And to play this long in the league, to be a champion, is honestly remarkable. Honestly, and he was one of my favorite players in college at the time. And I knew he would be good in the league if he got that chance, if he kept his head on straight, and he did. And shout out to him. But it is a loss for the Saints, and they turned around and added Blackmon pretty quickly, which they're different players, but you still feel the hole. So shout out to the Saints for bouncing back so quickly. It makes me wonder how long he actually had this in the works. They said a couple of days, but that happened pretty quickly for them to get in Blackmon.
Mm-hmm.
We're just after the announcement. So maybe he said this to them for a week or two, and it's always been in the cards. But yeah, shout out to a great career for Honey Badger.
Yeah, and Tyrann Mathieu is up there with the Reggie Bushes, the Cam Newtons, Tavon Austins, where they're in the kind of real. I would honestly kind of say like the real popular time in college football. More
Yeah.
so, obviously college football has changed a lot over the past few years, but the real 2000, the mid 2000, 2002 to 2010, 2011, 2012. That was really when college football was really at its popularity. Obviously, you had the USC in their dominance, and that ultimately led up to the Rose Bowl versus Vince Young. Alabama's dominance obviously was something that that was popular during that time. Everybody talks about the Tavon Austin highlights. The one highlight tape that everybody knows about, and that's made him basically legend in college football, royalty.
Immortalized.
And,
Yeah.
You're for real. And Tyrann Mathieu is no different. A guy that was, part of it was his energy. Part of it was how good that LSU team was at his peak when he really was his season where he was really the Honey Badger and kind of got that moniker. You know, given he did obviously have his troubles that led to him dropping and getting to link up with Patrick Peterson in Arizona, but given his size, because that was really obviously everybody knew that he could play and he was a playmaker, turnover machine in college, but his size was also part of that. And given his size, for him to have been, and he tore his ACL as well while he was in the league, still having the season that the career that he had, becoming an all-decade player, this was also something that I saw on Twitter, and this is probably something that in my opinion, is facts and something that it probably is not talked about enough given the past couple days. Because his retirement, like people talked about it, but I don't feel like the national media really gave a lot of coverage on it, especially probably because he was ending his career with the Saints. We see what the Saints are right now, but Kansas City becoming Kansas City and what we know of Kansas City didn't start till Tyrann Mathieu got there, and I think that is as much as we talk about Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, Chris Jones, that Kansas City defense was cake until Tyrann Mathieu came and changed everything there. And, they didn't become a dynasty. They didn't become a championship team until Tyrann Mathieu got there. And I think his impact at there is something that, is probably something that's maybe later on, when we're looking back on it, will probably be appreciated more. But I do think that is something that should be mentioned, given where, how things were in the trajectory and then him coming there and then kind of turning them up. Because before that, there was, we weren't talking about Chris Jones like that when he was coming out of college and stuff like that. Like once Honey Badger got there and they started turning up, like even though the defense was, at points 20th ranked and stuff like that, it was him, Frank Clark, that kind of stepped up in the playoffs. Like I said, became an all-decade player, became an all-NBA or all-NFL or NFL All-Pro. So shout out to Honey Badger on a great career. I'm wondering if there's a part of me that wonders if he still, wanted to play, but
he just didn't want to play for the Saints.
He maybe didn't want to play for the Saints. He wanted to go compete with a championship contender or a team that we think is a championship contender, but he also didn't want to leave his hometown.
True.
And ending it the right way there. So there's a part of me that wonders that, and obviously we'll see if he ends up talking about it a little bit more in depth. But shout out to Honey Badger and enjoy retirement.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
But getting into our top 10s, switching over to the offensive side today. As we get closer and closer, we will be looking at not doing any of the offensive linemen because that is just a crapshoot in terms of for us to be sitting here being like XYZ is a top 10 guard. All right, like why
Shout out to all the guards in the league though. Shout out to all the guards and the tackles.
You know what I'm saying? Shout out to all the offensive linemen.
All them pulling guards, man. I know that's a hard job.
So sticking with the skill positions, quarterbacks, running backs, receivers, and tight ends. Starting off with the running backs, a position that's kind of gotten a lot of love over the past 12 months, given the season that Saquon had. But on top of that, Derrick Henry, Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan, JT, kind of a year for the running backs. David Montgomery as well. We always talk about Jahmyr Gibbs, but he's very much part of that as well. Obviously, Genty also made some noise on the college football ranks, so and obviously was a top 10 pick this season. So, who do you guys got in your top 10 and why?
I guess I kick it off per usual. All right, so in my top 10, I got starting off with Bucky Irvin. He had a great year last year for as playing for Tampa Bay Bucks. Let me not say great. He had a very solid year, but I think he did wonders for that offense.
Great.
It was great.
I didn't want to overdo it, but yeah.
It was really good.
But like you said, Shy, it's starting to become, which I like it, starting to become a little resurgence of the running back. I think people are starting to realize the true definition and ability of the running back to help your quarterback out. But like I said, Bucky Irving had a great rookie year, and I'm expecting him to build on it. Next, I have Kenneth Walker, Seattle Seahawks. I think he's going to help out. I think with Sam Darnold coming over and with the loss of DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, I feel like they're going to have to lean on that running game a little bit more. He's a good running back. He had a good year last year, but like I said, I just think they're going to have to lean on him a lot more for them to get their offense kicking. I'm not sure what the offense is going to look like this year, but I'm sure he's going to have a heavy workload. Next, I have James Cook. I feel like he's a real unsung hero for Buffalo Bills. I feel like he don't get talked about enough. I understand, Josh Allen is the quarterback for the Bills, and he is the man, Superman, however you want to call it. But I mean, James Cook was an intricate part of that offense last year. I mean, he had a hell of a year last year, and I think without him, you could easily say that maybe Buffalo doesn't go as far as they could have. I mean, he had a good playoffs until they stopped giving the fucking ball, but that's beside the point. Next I have Kyron Williams for the Rams. He had a couple fumbling issues last year, but he's still a good running back. He's a solid running back for the Rams. Again, this is one of the situations where Matthew Stafford, he's getting up there in age, and with having a good running back and Kyron Williams allow you to get that play action going, and that's how they got where they end up almost beating the Eagles to get to this NFC Championship game. So shout out Kyron Williams. Next, I got your boy shot, Jonathan Taylor. I mean, not much I need to say about him. He's very much an intricate part of y'all offense. We're hoping. I mean, everybody's been hoping. Basically, as long as AR stay healthy with him and Jonathan Taylor in the backfield, I mean, that should be able to. I mean, theoretically, y'all offense should be popping with that with somebody like him in the backfield, and plus AR who can run the ball and sling it. So, I still expect him to be a dominant running back this coming year. Next, I have Jahmyr Gibbs. Obviously, he's one of the younger running backs on the list. Came in NFL, just took it by storm. And I do understand. I do agree with you with the David Montgomery. Like, you can't forget about him because it is a two-headed monster with that team. But obviously, there was a point in time when David Montgomery got hurt last year, and obviously Jahmyr Gibbs seems to take more of the ownership of being the lead back. But yeah, man, that man fast as fuck. And that boy getting the open field, he might be out of there. So I gotta shout out Jahmyr Gibbs. And then next I got your boy Cass Bijan Robinson. Yeah, I mean, what can I say? He was best person in your offense last year. I mean, that man's something serious. I mean, y'all might want to feed him a little more. Y'all might want to feed him just a little bit more. But I mean, he's going to definitely help Michael Penix out a lot this coming year. I fully expect y'all to lean on him a little bit more than y'all did last year, just to give him give him a little bit more confidence in the pocket and being able to make plays, and that's just gonna be y'all way of getting better as a team. And then the next three, I mean, there's not much for me to say about them. You got Josh Jacobs he went from the Raiders being dominant with the Raiders to come and being dominant with the Packers. I mean, that was a bright spot in their offense. Although obviously he called out them needing a number one receiver. He like, man, I'm tired of running this motherfucker rock. God damn, I need a dominant receiver right there. But I mean, he a dominant person. So I mean, I'm sure he's going to keep that going. And then the next two, obviously, King Henry and Saquon Barkley. I mean, they were both neck and neck, especially for the fact that they both left their teams and went to another team and just dominated. I mean, both teams, you could easily say especially with the Eagles. You can easily say we wouldn't been nowhere without Saquon last year. Derrick Henry obviously helped out the Ravens. Ravens was still a good team without him, but I mean Derrick Henry having that threat in the backfield, both of those squads, it changed life for the Eagles and the Ravens. So that's my top. I did leave Christian McCaffrey off. It's just the injuries for me. I think he's still gonna be a good player this year. It's just I don't know, man. The Achilles shit, that shit kind of makes me nervous when it comes to that. So I had to leave him out. So that's my list.
I like it.
Got some young
I
guys.
like it. Yeah. I like it a lot.
All
right. I go from the bottom to the top too. I was struggling with this last spot. It was between Bucky Irvin and Chuba Hubbard. I ended up going with Bucky Irvin just because he showed more last season in the pass game than Chuba Hubbard. Both are but I definitely want to shout out Chuba Hubbard. I think he's gonna be a big reason why the Panthers make if they do take another step, it will definitely be because of Chuba's impact. So Bucky Irvin at 10. Like you said, Chris, he had a great rookie season. It's funny because it's like you're looking back at it. It's like, okay, if they started feeding him 4 games earlier than they did, he probably would have been way higher on a lot of people's lists. But as soon as he got in, like his ability to force missed tackles, his ability to impact the pass game along, like I said, with the run game, and they do run a lot of screens, a lot of creative screens. At least they did last year. We'll kind of see how they do with the new offensive coordinator this season, but. Yeah, got to have Bucky Irvin on there for sure. I got Kenneth Walker as well. Still only 24 years old. Thinking with him, kind of like with a different level, obviously, of a Christian McCaffrey. But injuries have kind of slowed his trajectory a little bit. So injuries, along with a very capable backup and Charbonnet, might eat into his touches. We'll see if he can stay healthy, though. I still think he's a dominant, and he's still very young. He's a still dominant rusher. I got James Cook as well. Like you said, a big part of that Buffalo Bills offense. His runs are like backbreakers to the defense. And we kind of seen it throughout the season especially when they're on their roll. Like when he gets going, he gets those home run runs. It's like, well, shit, then we got to worry about him and Josh Allen and whoever you can get in the pass game at that point. But mainly Shakur. So definitely got James Cook on there. I got Josh Jacobs on there as well. He was carrying the Packers for a lot of games last season. And I mean, I just go back to the one drive. I forgot who it was against. They literally ran the ball every single play of that drive and scored. I can't remember for the life of me, but it's like his impact was very strong. I don't think that backs up at all this season. We'll kind of, like you said, we'll kind of see what happens. Which receiver steps up? Is it Golden? Will it be Reed? Who knows? But for him to be that steady and force is huge for that team. I got Christian McCaffrey on my list. I'm expecting the bounce back type of season. Definitely the calf injury is definitely worrisome, especially could that in the calf injury, the Achilles tendonitis or whatever the fuck it was. Very worrisome, but he did take the time off that I feel like he needed. So maybe and he's been going hard this offseason, training, recovering. So I am expecting he's still a big part of what their offense does, and they're going to need him. So I think they will feed him still. I got Jonathan Taylor on my list as well, of course. And that's another team you're going through. We'll see who comes out on top in the quarterback battle that they're having. But again, like I kind of mentioned with Jacobs, he's that steady and force for that team. And they depend on him a lot. So I think Jonathan Taylor will have a great season this season. I also had Jahmyr Gibbs on my list. I'm with you both on that. Dave Montgomery plays a lot into, the run game with the Lions. But just, again, like I said, with kind of James Cook, just the home run ability just scares the shit out of defenses. And especially when he gets involved in the pass game, it's lethal. So got to have him on there. Got to have Derrick Henry on there, of course. No signs of slowing down. To have that kind of season that you had at 30, 31, whatever, is honestly remarkable. Of course, Lamar Jackson, the offensive line helped a lot with that, but a lot of that still just King Henry just dominating. I got Bijan as well. Like you said, Chris, feed him more, but I think it should be more more creative with it. He doesn't get involved in the pass game as much as he should. He's had to stay back and block, which I think he's a great blocker. But you also want to utilize his receiving skills, which we'll kind of see how that kind of comes to fruition. He has a capable backup as well with Tyler Algier, and there's been talk of them running more 21, having them both back there so that you can use Bijan, on more routes out the backfield, more like Christian. So we'll kind of see how that goes, but got to have Bijan on there. He got to break for more like long runs as well. You got to get some more explosion to it. And that's why Saquon's at the top of that list because the season that he had is just remarkable. We talked about it on this podcast all last season. The impact that he had led him pretty much to a Super Bowl run. No, not pretty much. He did lead him. It's honestly remarkable. The amount of home runs that he had over 40 yards was just like you turn around, the defense is just like, shit, there's nothing we can do about it. And he'll just take off on him. So it's Saquon, and I don't see that slowing down either, to be honest with you, especially with the offensive line that you do have. It's been some hating shit going on, which where people put too much stock into the offensive line and say it's not Saquon. A lot of that is still Saquon. So, got to ask my list.
Solid list.
Mm-hmm.
Give them offensive inconsistencies, but also I had James Cook on my list. Dude had like 16 touchdowns last season. Was just really good, for the Buffalo Bills. Obviously, he broke a lot of runs. He was also very efficient as a runner for them. Part of that is because of Josh. Obviously, Josh has ability to run as well, but I mean, you wouldn't. I think his brother was better. Obviously, well, not obviously, but yeah, obviously, because he was a better college player and really better in the NFL anyway. But when you see him run, I mean, it does not look much different at all. Like Dalvin was a little bit more, built like stockier, and James a little bit more lean. But like the smoothness in the way that they run, the way that they move, they're able to get in the way that he reads blocks as well. Kind of sets him up. It is phenomenal. I actually had Ashton Jinty on my list as well. Obviously, after the season that he just had in college, being the Heisman runner-up, I think we all know Pete Carroll loves to run the ball. I think that he's going to be heavily involved in both the run and the pass game for them, and I think that he's going to be a big piece. Obviously, getting drafted with a top 10 pick at running back is not something that's super common, over the past few years. Even being drafted in the first round is not necessarily something that's super common. But being drafted in the top 10, being as good as he was in college, I do think that he makes a heavy impact coming into the league. I also had Kyron Williams on my list. Touchdown machine. Seems like he gets a touchdown every single game. As you mentioned, he did have some fumbling issues, but he is a major piece of their offense and probably something that doesn't get talked about enough. Just how good he is and how valuable he is when he's been been able to play for the Rams. And I think that, I don't know if you guys saw, but there's already been reports that Matt Stafford has a sore back. So they will probably be leaning heavily on Kyron Williams, and I don't think that is something that you should just overlook given some of his injuries and his age.
They better pay that man.
And his repeated, flirtation with retirement. I just don't think that that's something to just
need to shut him down, man.
I also had Bucky Irvin on my list. I think it's as simple as this. The Bucs were a fucking terrible rushing offense. They could not run the ball at all over the past 2 seasons. And Rachaad White is at least as a pass catching back, he's really solid.
Yeah.
As soon as Bucky Irvin comes, all of a sudden they're a top 5 to 6 rushing offense in the league. I don't think that obviously that has a little bit to do with some things that they changed up offensively, but a lot of it has to do with Bucky. He, even given his size, I mean, he is as natural as a running back as there could be. A natural as a runner. as small as he is, he's able to take hits. He bounces off of them. He breaks tackles. I mean, he's just a really, really complete player that was even complete in college as well. Um, you know, so had to have him on the list. I also had Jahmyr Gibbs on the list. You know, talked about a natural runner. Averaging damn near 6 yards a carry. He didn't even, unlike some of these other running backs, like, Bijan, JT, Derrick Henry, he didn't even hit 300 carries, and he's still right up there, top 5 in rushing yards on the season. So that just tells you how good he is. Obviously, some of that has to do with their offensive line as well. But very, very great player. David Montgomery, I would love to have in the list as well, but he just always gets nicked, so just couldn't have him in the list. But Josh Jacobs also on my list. Obviously Jordan Love was hurt at the beginning of the season, and Malik Willis came in and got them a few good wins. And a large part of that was Josh Jacobs and his ability to keep them moving forward, keep them in advantageous positions offensively. And like you said, continued his being as great as he was, going from the Raiders to a now a playoff team. I also had Bijan on my list. Similar to Bucky, if you want to just talk about a natural runner, that's very much what Bijan is. Does need to, like you mentioned, need to get some more explosive plays. Has had a good bill of health over the past 2 seasons, but we will see how that looks as we see running backs as they start getting more and more to the season or to their career. They start getting nicked here and there. I also had Saquon on my list, of course. Just if you wanted to have I'm going to say this, but then I'm going to say something right after that it kind of makes that sound somewhat funny. But if you want to talk about a season where you have a guy that wins MVP outside of the quarterback, I mean, I think Saquon had every bit of that season. 2,000 yards rushing. Coming over to obviously the Eagles. Every running back that's coming over to the Eagles has had a bit of the offensive line boost. And Saquon has took that and ran with it for real, jumping over people backwards as well. And I say all that to say Derrick Henry had a better season than Saquon last year. Derrick Henry, less carries, about like 70 less yards, average more yards per carry, had more explosive runs at the age that he did is insane. And that's why I was about to say, like, what I'm about to say sounds crazy, but Derrick Henry was so good last season. 1,900 yards. Obviously, Saquon didn't play in the last game, so he really could have broken the record if he chose to do so. But we want to talk about somebody that not slowing down, kind of breaking the mold in terms of a running back over 30. Obviously, Lamar has a huge part in that, being the +1 that the defense has to account for. But Derrick Henry was just phenomenal last year. And then finally, I had JT as well. Probably the most underrated running back, honestly, in the league, in my opinion, at this point, because I mean, I understand he's had some nicks and injuries, but he's like 5th all time in career rushing yards per game. Last year he missed 3 games and was still 4th on the rushing yards list, average 100 yards per game. He is and the active leader in rushing yards per game amongst all running backs. I think that a lot, for whatever reason, even back to when he got drafted, not just saying by the Colts, but for him to have dropped to the second round, given that he's arguably the best running back in college football history, it's kind of, and he's a 225-pound back that arguably might be the fastest running back in the league. It's kind of crazy that he dropped to the second round, especially given that Kansas City had an opportunity to get him. But I don't think that he gets enough credit for how good he has been, and a lot of reason is because of the Colts and what the Colts have looked like and how they finished seasons over the past 2 seasons. and how he finished that last season, dropping that ball in the biggest point of the season. But I think he continue now that they drafted a running back. I think that he continues to be great. And I think that them getting a running back, a younger guy, somebody that hopefully they can mix in, I think will help prolong his career and maybe keep him on the field for all 17 games, maybe 20 plus games if you get to the playoffs and stuff like that. As opposed to some of the past few seasons where he's missed, 3-4 games here and there. I wanted to put our Marion Hampton in there as well, but given the situation,
he's gonna be huge this season.
Now they lost J.K. Dobbins. Obviously, he went to Denver, and Najee Harris. I don't know. We didn't talk about it, but he did have an accident during July 4th, where it sounded like he might be blind in an eye.
They talking about some pray for healing. I'm like, hold on now.
There is
what happened.
Yeah, it's tough.
It's been a lot of vague conversation around it. I don't think that we've seen him. And they were the first team, I think, to report to camp like a week or two ago. And there hasn't really been too much news on it. So, So I think that, opportunity, if there's an opportunity for somebody to really have a great season, would probably be the young first round running back that just had all of the carries open up to him in a matter of 2 months. So I wanted to have him in there, but given how the Chargers were as a rushing attack and just offense as a whole last year, I think they still got a little bit of work to do. But yeah, it's a lot. A lot of good running backs.
It is a lot of good running backs, man.
Tony Pollard, James Conner. I was talking about JT being somebody that's heavily underrated. He might be, if there's a race for it, he might be like right there. Somebody that's been consistently good for the Cardinals, was good with the Steelers, obviously as well. So it's a lot of good running backs. We'll see who makes some noise this season. It's funny because speaking of Bucky Irving, it's going to be interesting to see if Jonathan Brooks ever makes a real impact given some of the injuries he's had over the past 2 seasons, obviously last year and then in college. Being the first running back taken last year, I don't, when are we going to see him and see the impact that he's going to be able to make? That's going to be something to watch over, not this year, obviously, but probably next year.
The good part is that he's currently 21, so he's still one of the youngest running backs in the league. And by the time he starts next year at 22, he will still be, one of the youngest running backs in the league. So he has that going for him, if not anything else.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. Just because, I feel like Cam Akers has, he's had 2 bad, Achilles injuries, and he's still been able to stick around, but the explosiveness is not necessarily there.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's tough. It's tough.
It is.
And then finally, we'll see what Travis Etienne. Between him and Tank Bigsby. Tank Bigsby could be our Bucky Irvin next year. Obviously, they got the coach from the Tampa Bay Bucks, and he's another guy that maybe is not has these super explosive traits, but natural runner. Seems like every time he gets his hands on the ball, he's getting 5 yards, 6 yards, breaking a run or something. So, we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see.
But that gives us a wrap for another episode of the Speak Up Sports Podcast. We will catch y'all next week.
Yes, sir.